Y'all, I know the show don't start for another 30 minutes, but I needed to start it now. They're doing a emergency press conference because they are going crazy over the leaked emails. Y'all, here we go. Thank y'all for joining the show.
For business. President Trump looks forward to finally ending this devastating Democrat shutdown with his signature, and we hope that signing will take place later tonight. On another matter, I want to address the affordability issue that's received a great deal of media attention this past week, which is ironic because it didn't receive that much attention when Joe Biden was here and inflation was at a record high 9%, the worst inflation crisis in modern American history. And President Trump won a landslide election in part to address the affordability issues created by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's exactly what President Trump has done since day one of his administration. Since the first day in office and every day since, the Trump administration has taken aggressive action to fix the Biden-created cost of living issues. The notion that the same Democrats who just shut down the federal government to sabotage our economy, rob people of their paychecks, and also helped Joe Biden ratchet up inflation to 9%, are now suddenly affordability champions, that notion is completely absurd. And it's something only the liberal media would have the gall to push. But the reality is that President Trump and his administration have done so much to lower prices and increase the economic prosperity of the American people. And this president and his team of amazing economic advisors are going to keep working on this issue every single day. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, which will guarantee that next year Americans are going to put more money back into their pockets. The president has completely unleashed American energy dominance to help bring gasoline prices to the lowest in 5 years, and we expect them to continue to decrease. And it has also lowered energy costs overall. There is more work to do. But again, the president's deregulatory and pro-American energy agenda is absolutely going to continue to drive down prices. This formula worked in the president's first term, and we expect that it's going to work again. And this is key because we know energy costs are the #1 driver of inflation. Again, just look at what Joe Biden did to our energy industry over the past 4 years of his administration, and look at what happened to inflation as a result. Everything became more expensive. To lower prescription drug prices and healthcare costs, the president has been working around the clock on this issue. He is obsessed with negotiating these good deals on behalf of the American people to bring down pharmaceutical costs and drug costs for Americans. And he has done so on a number of fronts. You have seen him discuss that in the Oval Office several times. To fuel small businesses, lower their costs, and incentivize hiring, the Trump administration has already cut 30 unnecessary regulations for every new one on the books, which we know will save employers and small businesses across the country thousands of dollars in regulatory burdens. All of these pro-Trump policies are working, and they will continue to work. Wages are rising at the fastest pace of the start of a presidential administration in 60 years. The cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 per year. There's much work to do, and this administration will continue to do it. But President Trump has already made great progress in cleaning up the economic disaster that was created by Joe Biden. With that, I will take your questions today. And in our new media seat, we have Bev Turner, who works for a new outlet, a UK outlet, but based here in Washington, D.C., GB News. Bev, thank you for being here today. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So the clock is ticking on the Friday deadline by which the BBC.
So basically what happened was that the Dems, because the House is now back in session, they released the emails from Jeffrey Epstein that basically said like, oh yeah, Trump hasn't barked yet. And then another email saying that he spent hours at his house with Virginia Giuffre. It was redacted, but they had since released the name. It was with Virginia, you know, the one that unalived herself. Yeah, with that one. So now, mind you, yesterday they were talking about Ghislaine being released from jail. She's trying to get clemency. So all of this has now, listen, the White House is in panic mode. Okay, let's go back to the video.
And given that the organization is publicly funded, is the president prepared to bankrupt the BBC in his pursuit of truth and justice?
Well, thank you, Bev. There's a lot of questions in one there. I will say, I know the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Starmer. You have been there, you've seen them in their interactions, you've questioned both leaders in your time joining us when we've gone to the United Kingdom a few different times now. However, he has always been very frank when he disagrees with leaders, even whom he has a good relationship with. And the BBC, being a fair news organization, is definitely an outlet. I think these two leaders would disagree. The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers. And he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And I think that the president was deeply concerned by the editing, the purposeful and dishonest editing of his speech that was so clearly fake news. And he rightfully dubbed that term many years ago. And this is a classic example of that. We see it in the United States all the time. We see it now in the United Kingdom. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue. And whether they apologize or not is up to them. Thanks for being here, Bev. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
I have your statement about the new Esptein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
So do you think the Democrats, these are the only emails they have? I think they got more.
Go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with.
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any. And it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump, as we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media. And it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
But given your interest in transparency, Caroline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition, calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That is.
So Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace, they're trying to get them to change their votes to no, to releasing the files, because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey, they're like, yeah, release the files. They're trying to get those two to change. The Nancy Mace lady, the crazy cuckoo lady from South Carolina, and then the crazy cuckoo lady from Colorado. They're trying to get them to change their vote. All right.
President have input on this
reverse the downsizing of federal government that they did during the shutdown?
I mean, look, I think it's about 6,000 workers total. When you look at that in comparison to the reduction in the federal workforce that this administration has done since January to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and to reduce the size of our federal bureaucracy, we've done a lot of great work on that front, and we will continue to. But obviously, the president's main priority was to reopen the federal government and get people back to work, and that's what this deal accomplishes.
There's been reports in Israeli media that the U.S. is considering building a temporary military base on the Gaza border. Can you confirm these reports?
So I had a conversation directly with the reporter who wrote this article, and this article was based on a single piece of paper, an inquiry that somebody in the Department of Navy made about an idea that may happen in the future. And this reporter deemed that as an official plan and ran with a story that the United States is looking into it. I checked with the highest levels of the United States federal government. This is not something the United States is interested in being engaged in. It's not something we are currently involved in right now that we will be funding. And the president has been very clear. He doesn't want to see boots on the ground with respect to what's happening in the Middle East. We've made great peace. We've made great progress with the peace plan in Gaza, and we want to continue to see that move forward. But I put a comment in that story for a reason. And sometimes we see reporters take a piece of paper like this and just deem it as official policy. And sometimes that misleads people a little bit. Sure.
There's been a question about UK intelligence sharing regarding the drunken traditions involving Venezuelan boats. How will that affect the U.S. military operation? There's been a lot of discussion about the high caliber of the intelligence that's been provided before any of these military actions have taken place.
I've seen.
Just so you know, Israel is still dropping bombs on Gaza. It's not over.
But we don't comment on intelligence matters, classified intelligence matters, as you know. As for the Trump administration's position on our narco-terrorist campaign in the Caribbean, it is going to continue. And the president has made it very clear he's not going to allow terrorists to bring illegal drugs that kill American citizens into our great country. Sure, John. I'll go to John and then Zolan. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Trump has talked about sending out $2,000 checks to U.S. citizens. Earlier this year, he also talked about sending a Doge dividend. That didn't materialize. Should U.S. Citizens expect the $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes. And we are currently exploring all legal options to get that done. I don't have a timeline for you or any further details, but I can confirm for you that the president.
I'm going to research that because I've seen something on Twitter, but I don't know if it's true or not. I'll get back to you on that.
Provide one. Zolan.
You said at the top that one of the costs of the government shutdown was that people missed their SNAP benefits. Can you explain then why the administration went to court to fight the funding of food stamps and SNAP?
So recipients missed their SNAP benefits because the Democrats shut the government down. And they forced the administration to tap into a contingency fund that did not even fund the full entirety of this program. And so then you had an unhinged judge who was trying to dictate from the bench what the executive branch has to pay for and where that money has to come from. That is judicial overreach at its finest.
Right.
And so that's why the administration pushed back on that. We can't have the judicial branch telling the executive branch that we need to rob the Children Nutrition Fund, which is what this judge was trying to do to pay for SNAP benefits. That's completely inappropriate and it's unconstitutional. And we've been proven right with that legal argument. But now the good news is, again, thanks to Republicans and in several hours, President Trump, the government is going to be reopened and SNAP recipients are going to receive their full benefits, which is what President Trump has always wanted to do. Stephen.
Why also did you need the judicial process for that? I mean, during this shutdown, didn't the administration have a responsibility to tap into any of those reserves to ensure that essentially
we did tap into it. We did tap into the contingency fund. And then the judge told us, no, you have to get more money from a children's nutrition fund. And we felt that was judicial overreach. You shouldn't tell the president which fund he has to rob because the Democrats are holding the country hostage by shutting down the federal government. Stephen, go ahead.
Well, if the president is considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
Again, he's answered this repeatedly. It's not something he's talking about or even thinking about at this moment in time. I can assure you of that. Stephen.
Caroline. I've got two questions about New York for you.
Sure.
First,
You always do.
Mayor-elect.
On brand for the New York Post.
Mayor-elect Mamdani, he said that he plans to reach out to President Trump and that, quote, this is a relationship that will be critical. Does the White House have a response to this planned outreach?
It's the first time I'm hearing of it. I'll let the president respond himself to that.
And please
comment
hit
by
that
Mr.
like button,
Mamdani.
you guys.
My second question, Jack Schlossberg, the grandson of President Kennedy, announced today that he's running for Congress. He, in the recent past, has referred to his uncle, the HHS secretary, as, quote, a rabid dog. And he has said that the Trump administration is, quote, the most corrupt in American history. Does the White House have a comment on this sort of comment from a rising star in the Democratic Party?
I don't even think such ridiculous comments are worth responding to. Obviously, those things are not true. And Secretary Kennedy is doing a phenomenal job bringing transparency and the gold standard of science back to our healthcare system. Eamon.
Thank you, Caroline. The president's hosting a number of.
Mind you, they've been firing everybody at the CDC. And there's people who've now gotten the measles, which was very rare. And now we're having more cases of that.
I know you've reported on some names and we've helped you navigate whether those names were truthful or false. But I know the president actually plans to bring some of you into the dinner tonight. So you'll see for yourself in several hours if that's okay with you.
There's been some reporting that the White House is frustrated with Bill Pulte and the rollout of this proposal for a 50-year mortgage. Can you tell us if the White House is frustrated with that rollout and if the White House still supports the idea of a 50-year mortgage for Americans?
This is a proposal that the president himself has commented on. I would defer you to the president's statements, and it's something that the administration is discussing and seriously looking into. Sure. Danny, and then go ahead.
Thank you. Some Democratic members of Congress have invited Britain's former Prince Andrew to testify on the Esptein scandal. I was just wondering if President Trump thinks that former Prince Andrew should indeed come and testify to Congress on that.
I haven't spoken to him about that specific matter, but I can ask him and get back to you.
You know, Prince Andrew had to step down because he was caught up in the Epstein files.
To negotiate healthcare strategy while or policy while the government was shut down. Now, assuming that it reopens tonight, is the president intending to invite any Democrats over to have negotiations over these subsidies or any other plan to bring down the cost of health insurance?
I will just add that, as you pointed out, the Democrats were holding our country hostage to try to negotiate on a healthcare system that they created. Obamacare, as it's famously called, is a system the Democrats created. It is a broken system. It has driven up healthcare costs dramatically in this country. And now they shut the government down to try to fix that system they broke. It doesn't make any sense to us, which is why the president said that's a completely untenable position. However, once the government reopens, the president, as he's always maintained, is absolutely open to having conversations about healthcare. And I think you'll see the president putting forth some really good policy proposals the Democrats should take very seriously to fix, again, the system that they broke. You can't trust the same people who broke the system to fix it. And so the American people will be continue to hear from the president on this issue.
Follow up on the question about the $2,000 payments of tariff revenue. The president had also talked about using tariffs to bring down the national debt. Would this be in lieu of that? Like this is now the new way to maybe to use that tariff revenue?
No, the president put out a statement on this clarifying he wants to do both things with the tariff revenue that he's bringing into this country. Trillions of dollars are expected to continue to pour in. And it's part of the reason that the Supreme Court case is so vital for our country's future, to restore our manufacturing industry in this country, to protect our national security, to continue to allow the president to use tariffs as leverage to negotiate economic deals that, again, are good for our national security. And that revenue can then be used for various reasons, to pay down our debt and also perhaps to give these rebate checks back to Americans, which, again, the White House is exploring the legal options of how we can get that done. Catherine, go ahead.
Caroline, Viktor Orban said this week that President Trump has promised Hungary some kind of financial shield. Do you have any details on how that will be structured or what that will look like?
I don't, but I'm happy to check with the National Security Council and get back to you.
One more. You recently said you'd check with President Trump about why he needs to get an MRI on his recent trip to Walter Reed. Do you have any more detail on that?
I do, and I'm glad you asked. As stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. The full results were reviewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agreed that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health, which I know all of you will see with your own eyes later this evening when he opens up his dinner to the press, and perhaps you will see him when he signs the bill to reopen the federal government. So stay tuned on plans for that. Thank you, everyone.
All right, you guys. So that was the press secretary, Lioness Caroline Levitt. Still lying as usual. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Okay. So, let me stop it. Okay. So, yeah. So what happened was that the Democrats released the emails from Jeffrey Epstein. The White House went crazy and was all like, oh shit, let's go ahead and throw out some distractions, right? So that's what that was all about. But I wanted to catch it in real time. So that's why I had to start the live so early. So I apologize about that. But these are the emails. I want to go ahead and pull it up. So this one, victim, now we know is Virginia Guffrey. Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. So he's claiming that he was never a member. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So right here, this seems like Trump was telling, Ghislaine, like, hey, or Ghislaine, like, hey, stop. I know you guys are bringing these girls and, doing all this PDF stuff, and you guys are trafficking. Stop it. Now, this makes Trump look like a good guy in this case, right? Then the next one, I want you to realize that the dog hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Now, I don't know what that is in reference to, but yeah, the dog hasn't barked. So basically saying he hasn't said shit. Oh shit, this one is hella small. Hold on, let me see if I can. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the place or to the house from, damn, this is hella small. Hold on, let me see if I can read this from my phone. Hold on, you guys. Hold on. Okay, so he said, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. And this is to Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff is the guy who has like hours and hours of tapes of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein. And so right here, he's basically saying like, you can kind of hold this over his head, where in a Trump regime, this is going to be outlawed. Like, we'll be good. We'll be okay. This almost seems like he was expecting Trump to help him out. Like, oh, now that Trump is in office, we'll be good. This will go away. This will be done with. Now, fast forward to today or yesterday when Ghislaine is said to trying to get clemency. She's trying to get clemency so she can get the hell up out of jail. It's been reported that she's been receiving special privileges in that prison in Katy, Texas. It's more like a camp. It's not actually a prison. I just want to remind everybody, Ghislaine participated in the sexual acts with the girls. She participated in the acts. It wasn't like she was the madam, and well, she was, but she orchestrated a lot of this, but she also participated in the sexual acts. So this is not somebody who is like, oh, well, she was more behind the scenes. No, she's a predator. I want to remind you, Ghislaine is a predator. She is not a nice person. A lot of those victims said she was evil. Now, Trump, being the dummy that he is, why would you move her into a better, like, this only makes you look even more suspicious. This doesn't make you look clean at all, moving her and doing all this. And like I said, I don't believe that these are the only emails that the Democrats have. I think they were very strategic, like, we're going to give the people a little bit and pique your curiosity. The Dems knew that we was pissed, that they cave in like the little bitches they are. And so they were like, all right, how do we make this better? Jeffrey Epstein. They threw that shit out there. We know what y'all doing. You know? We know what y'all doing. However, thank you, but we still mad at you because y'all always cave in. But thank you for releasing the emails. And now what's important, you guys, is that now that the House is back in session, because they're trying to open up the government, also the Esptein files is up to be voted on too. So they have to swear in Adelita, the congresswoman who wanted the special election in Arizona. They have to swear her in, right? And she's the 218th vote. So what Trump is trying to do right now is get Lauren Boebert and Congresswoman Nancy Mace to change their vote to no. Now, Nancy Mace was the one crying and all that stuff, right? When she walked out the it was like the meeting with the victims and stuff like that. Nancy Mace is trying to run for governor, and she already got Trump's stamp of approval. So she's thinking like, and this is just my assumption, she's thinking like, oh shit, I don't know if I'm to vote with my conscience or think about my political career. I bet you anything, Lauren Boebert, she'll go ahead and flip her vote, and so will Nancy Mace. The only two Republicans that are strong in their convictions is, even though we don't like this lady, but Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey. Those are the only two Republicans that are like, okay, release them goddamn files. But the other two, Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert, they might flip, y'all. And I say in that case, the Dems keep releasing them damn emails. Nancy Mace and Lauren. Let's see if there's any update real quick. Okay, no update as far as them flipping their votes yet. Yeah, I don't see anything yet about them flipping their votes. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump goes like, hey, y'all want to win the next election and y'all want my endorsement? Because he already turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene. He said she lost her way. Marjorie Taylor Greene ain't got nothing to lose. He already said she lost her way. And shout out to everybody coming in the room. I'm sorry I haven't been interacting as much. I've been trying to, keep it. This is breaking news, y'all. I've been trying to keep up with it, but I see all of y'all. Operation is criminal enterprise within the Trump family. Right. And again, don't forget, Trump has been around people like this. John Casablancas. That was the original when Trump had his little, not just a pageant, but he had like this modeling agency. That was the original, sex trafficking ring that he had. And now he's associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you, beautiful. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ooh, laundering money. I swear that's why they didn't care about the shutdown. Ding, 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 ding. Exactly. What's up, Foreign Bay? Yes, they just said 5 minutes ago he called an emergency hearing to stop the files. Yep. And Caroline, the press secretary, she didn't deny it. She said, "Oh, that's what we always do. We always contact people, and yeah, because you don't want them to release them files. That's why." Nancy Mace was trying to be the pro-choice, pro-women's health leader in Trump's administration, but they didn't. But it did not last long. Yep. The orange clown, right? Yeah, everything is coming to a head. You remember Grandpa became rich running a brothel and selling drugs? I heard that. I heard that. I don't think he'll start an impeachment, and the reason why is because those Republicans are up his ass. Let me tell you something, and I hate to say this, and I said this before. I'll be completely honest with you. The Republicans can release the Epstein files tomorrow, right? Or the House can release the Epstein files tomorrow. Trump name can be all throughout that thing. MAGA is going to come up with every excuse to spin this and make it seem like it's nothing. Even if it says, yeah, Trump was, sleeping with the girls and stuff like that, they're going to be all like, oh no, he was really trying to get them to escape, or he was working as a double agent. It's going to be some crazy shit like that, I promise you. Because the Republicans don't care. They don't care. They're not good people. And I hate it. And there are good Republicans, like as far as like the people, the citizens, but as far as the politicians, they are shit. They have no moral compass at all. They do not care. This is why they did not care about the whole healthcare thing. They didn't give a damn. They didn't care. They do not care. And I hate to put it that way, but they don't. What's the reason for them to care? Especially when you have weak Democrats who are just going to bend the knee and just, give in to pressure. Yeah. They knew the Democrats was going to eventually cave. That's why they wasn't tripping. Oh, see, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I talked about it a while ago. I might revisit it again just because a lot of people go like, oh, who's John Casablanca? Yeah, I might revisit it again, but I talked about it. I'll have to reshare the video that I did a while ago about it. Because it was like a whole article and everything that laid everything out. Oh, yeah. I think definitely JD Vance, he trying to come from behind and they're like, yeah, release them files so I can be president. Listen, JD Vance is just waiting for that fool to kick the bucket. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. He waiting for that fool to kick the bucket so then he can become president. Okay, let's see what else they're talking about. Hold on. All right.
And breaking news. All right, we do have breaking news in the
real quick. Has Fox News talked about this? I want to see how Fox News is spinning this.
Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee minutes ago, literally, releasing emails that they say were written by Jeffrey Epstein that explicitly, specifically mentioned Donald Trump by name and in context that we really haven't heard before Let's get right to Caitlin Collins, who's got this reporting. Caitlin, what are you learning?
Yeah, John, these are emails that show Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times and private correspondence that he had with people, including Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously his longtime associate and accomplice, and also the author, Michael.
Oh, hold on. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the House, minority leader. Hold on.
Republican shutdown or done during the Trump Republican shutdown, the longest shutdown in American history, is that Donald Trump made the stunning claim that in his mind, he holds two titles, that he has two positions. Donald Trump says that he's both the president and the Speaker of the House. That's what Donald Trump said in the midst of him shutting down the government. And what we've seen from compliant, sycophantic Republicans, corrupt House Republicans, is they continue to go along to get along. They don't function like a separate and co-equal branch of government. From the very beginning of this presidency and all the way through this Trump shutdown, Republicans in the House have continued to act like a wholly owned subsidiary of the corrupt Trump cartel. That may be the House Republican position. For damn sure, it ain't the House Democratic position. Because we know, and what we say to the American people is that we don't work for Donald Trump. We don't work for J.D. Vance. We don't work for your billionaire donors. We work for the American people. And that's what this fight by House Democrats, joined by our colleagues on the other side of the country.
I still want them to replace Hakeem Jeffries, but at least he's doing a better job than Chuck Schumer.
Capital steps, ready to continue this battle on the House floor, a battle that we waged week after week after week, and that will continue regardless of the outcome. We say to the American people that we know you deserve better. You deserve much better than the chaos, the cruelty, and the corruption that you've seen. And so as House Democrats, we're going to continue this fight to lower the high cost of living in a country where America is far too expensive, far too many people struggling to live paycheck to paycheck, can't thrive, and can barely survive. That should not be the case in the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And so as Democrats, we're committed to addressing this affordability crisis. That's what this fight has been all about. And we'll continue to work hard to lower the high cost of living. We'll continue the fight to fix our broken healthcare system. And we'll continue to fight to stand up for Medicaid. We'll continue to fight to stand up for Medicare. We'll continue the fight to stand up for the Affordable Care Act and the tax credits. We'll continue to fight for your hospitals. We'll continue to fight for your nursing homes. We'll continue to fight for your community-based health clinics, and we'll continue to fight for the principle that in this great country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, healthcare can't simply be a privilege available only to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. Healthcare must be a right available to every single American. And that's the fight that House Democrats will continue to wage for the American people. It's now my great honor to yield to a freshman leadership representative, someone who's gotten off to a great start, helping to lead the freshman class, the first term members during this turbulent and tumultuous period here.
I want to say something. I do believe that big money needs to get out of politics. I totally agree with you guys because I see what y'all saying in the chat. But I just want to say real quick that, you know, the other side, the Republicans, they still got the big money in the, so, you know, you got to kind of fight fire with fire, unfortunately. But I do think there's a way to go about it.
And to protect healthcare for working families across the country. Recently, I spoke with Speaker Johnson directly in the Capitol and hand-delivered stories from my and my fellow freshman colleagues' constituents who have been impacted by the Republican shutdown. This includes the story of Stephen Heller, a constituent from Van Nuys, which is in my district. Stephen and his wife are independent contractors who have to pay for their own health insurance. Because Republicans let the ACA tax credits expire, Stephen and his wife are facing a monthly healthcare premium increase of $1,000 per month in 2026. This will bring their monthly total to nearly $2,100 per month and nearly $25,000 for the year just in health insurance. That is, in Stephen's own words, a terrible financial blow and an enormous financial burden. Constituents across the country like Stephen and his wife cannot afford Republicans' deal. I will vote no and continue to fight with House Democrats to protect the ACA subsidies that Stephen and millions of Americans rely on. House Democrats will continue our fight to protect healthcare, lower the cost of living, and keep the American dream attainable for all. Thank you. And next.
Justin, I agree. I think that if Democrats would have just stuck with it, the Republicans would have caved in. I think that some Democrats was already letting them know that they were going to cave, so that's why they did it.
Thank you very much. I come from mid-Michigan, the part of the country where workers actually invented the American dream, to work hard enough to pay your bills, put a little bit away, and take your kids on vacation every once in a while. But the dream is further and further out of reach. In my district, 70% of our jobs pay less than $60,000 a year. So this healthcare crisis that Republicans have created, $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts and gutting the ACA in order to pay for the tax break for the ultra wealthy, is making things so much harder. So let me give you an example. A couple in my district, they actually go to my church, called and told me they're in their 60s and they rely on the ACA tax credits to pay their insurance premiums. But now, because the Republicans have failed to extend these credits, their insurance premiums are going to jump by $11,000 next year, an impossible sum for people on the edge of retirement. Health insurance already consumes 72% of their retirement income. Let me say that again. 72% of their retirement income, and it's about to go up another $11,000.
Someone asked a great question. Hold on.
They're facing devastating.
Because we're not going to watch, because I think they're going to have all the Dems talk. We're not going to watch everybody. But I wanted to state this. The reason why it was the network, the Democrats didn't do it, is because it wasn't in the budget to basically, when you have things in the budget that you need to allocate to, you can't just extend this for a lifetime. So it expired this year. And so the thing is the following, this year you were talking about it, you would do, basically, you would think that you would do it again. Now, the Democrats, they don't plan for the long term, right? They don't think about, hey, we might not have power again, and then the Republicans are going to do whatever. Because, we know that when it comes to politics, the parties shift and change all the time, right? And so that was their bad for not extending the credit longer. However, when you have other things in the budget, you can't just do an infinite amount of money. So this was the year that it expired. So that's what it is, Before we close out, I did just want to look at the Epstein file thing from CNN that we're watching. Okay, here we go. And shout out to everybody coming in the room. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
Wolf in a time span of about the last 15 years or so in these emails. Now, these are coming out from the House Oversight Committee. They had issued a bipartisan subpoena to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, John, as you know, earlier this year. And so they've gotten their hands on a trove of documents. And these are emails that included Jeffrey Epstein on them. They were sent either to him or from him that mentioned Donald Trump before he was in office and also while he was in office during his first term. And I want to walk you through these emails of what exactly we are reading in Jeffrey Epstein's own words in these emails that have been released by the House Oversight Committee. And in one of them, Jeffrey Epstein says, and I should note, Trump did not send or receive any of these messages. He's not a party to these emails, John, but these are emails from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd, 2011. And in this email,
that's not true. The Democrats, when Biden was in office, only had power for 2 years, not all 4.
Jeffrey Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell and says, quote, I want you to realize that the dog that
And
hasn't
that was one of the
barked
problems
is Trump.
with them.
There's a name that's redacted, which the House Oversight Committee has said is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. Obviously, we have not been able to independently confirm that because her name is redacted from this email. But they say redacted spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Ghislaine Maxwell responds to that email, John, and says, quote, I have been thinking about that. Now, there's no context for that message in this release of what we're getting. Obviously, this was a time span, and this was about 3 years after Jeffrey Epstein had accepted what is now known as that sweetheart deal that only got him a few months in prison, and something that came under a ton of scrutiny during Donald Trump's first term in office because of his then Labor Secretary, Alex Acosta, who helped negotiate that plea deal, that sweetheart deal, for Jeffrey Epstein at the time. And so that's the context of this came about 3 years after he had negotiated that plea deal, John. And there's also other emails that have been released by the committee this morning, including between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. People will remember Michael Wolff, of course, the author who wrote a book on the inner workings of Trump's West Wing back in 2018 during his first term. He is someone who has talked at length about his own correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein, published audio recordings of those conversations between the two of them. And in another email, and this seems to be a reference to Donald Trump saying that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club. And Jeffrey Epstein writes to Michael Wolff and says, quote, Trump said he asked me to resign. And he adds, John, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Now, again, we don't have the context of this email, but John, that comes as in recent months, we've heard President Trump himself and the White House say that Jeffrey Epstein was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. And Trump himself told reporters on Air Force One that he was trying to poach women, he and Ghislaine Maxwell, from the Mar-a-Lago spa. And that was why they had such a falling out and why he ultimately asked Jeffrey Epstein to leave the Mar-a-Lago club. Now, there's also a third email in here, John, and this is, again, in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. And Michael Wolff emails Jeffrey Epstein, and this is back in December 15th, 2015. So the height of the 2016 campaign, just to put that in perspective for you. And it was the day of a CNN Republican primary debate. And Michael Wolff says, quote, I hear that CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in a scrum afterwards. And Epstein wrote, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Michael Wolff responded at length, John. I'll summarize it. But he said in regards to Trump, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Now, I'll note, John, we looked at the transcript of that CNN debate from December 2015. There's no mention of Jeffrey Epstein in there. And of course, as I mentioned, Donald Trump himself is not a party to these emails. But what this shows is Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times at a moment here in Washington when their relationship has come under incredibly intense scrutiny, John.
Kaylin, as you mentioned multiple times, we just don't have the context surrounding any of these emails. But that first email you read, the language absolutely jumps out to me. This is April 2nd.
Well, the network, you just answered your question. They weren't in power. So, yeah, that's why they didn't get an extension. Because, granted, the Republicans wouldn't have voted on it. Now, should they had extended it longer, considering everything we know now? Yes. And hopefully next time they play hardball. We can only
2011.
hope.
Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell, I want you to realize the dog that hasn't barked is Trump, blank. And blank here is one of the alleged victims of Jeffrey Epstein, a victim spent hours at my house with him being Trump. He has never once been mentioned. Now, again, we don't have the context surrounding that, Caitlin, but this kind of language from Jeffrey Epstein himself, how often has Donald Trump, what has Donald Trump said about contact he may have had or time he may have allegedly spent with some of Epstein's alleged victims?
Yeah, and John, just to be clear, the woman, the person whose name is redacted here was redacted by the House Oversight Committee before they put this out. That has been a huge point of focus as people have demanded the release of these documents, is to be able to protect the survivors and the victims. We have not been able to independently verify who this person is. The committee is the one doing the redacting here. But obviously he is referencing someone who Jeffrey Epstein says in this email from 2011 that spent time with Donald Trump at his house. And so we've asked the White House for comment on this morning. Obviously, these are emails that predate his time in office this term. They span about 15 years, this correspondence that's being released. And Trump has denied that he knew anything about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing and the sex trafficking of young women. And he said that he wasn't aware of that at the time. And obviously, Trump himself has not been accused of any wrongdoing. It's very important that we make that clear here, John. But of course, the question has been when it comes to regards to the Justice Department and what they've released about what they know. And Adelita Grijalva is being sworn in today. She's the new House Democrat from Arizona, and she's expected to be.
And we're still not understanding. Okay, so if Trump is innocent of everything, right? How come he's worried about whether or not the files would be released? If the files show that, oh, you were trying to stop Jeffrey Epstein from trafficking, that's a win for you. You know, that's a win. Like, yeah, Trump didn't do anything. He kicked Jeffrey Epstein out because he was a pedo. That would be a win, right?
That 218th signature. And so the pressure has been building on not just Democrats, but Republicans here in Washington to release more information about what the Justice Department has. And so looking at that email, obviously, will likely only increase that pressure to do so. And you're right, John, we don't know the context of that. But obviously you can read Jeffrey Epstein's words in and of itself and take away, obviously, what you will from that.
Oh, yeah. It begs many questions to be asked, perhaps to the president or the White House. You've already put this to them. Much more on this ahead. Caitlin Collins,
and
thank you
say,
so
John,
much. Oh, please.
I just want to say, because obviously, you know, we're breaking this morning. We did get a comment from Michael Wolff himself on this. I reached out to him to ask for any context on these emails, for anything from him. And he said, quote, I don't quite remember the context, but he says, I was engaged then in an in-depth conversation with Epstein about his relationship with Trump. And this seems to be part of that conversation. We have not yet gotten a comment from the White House. Obviously, they were going through these emails themselves this morning, and we will let you know what they have to say about it and what the president himself has to say about it, John.
All right. All of this developing before our very eyes. Caitlin Collins breaking this for us this morning. These emails, which.
And again, this was before the press. So this was before Caroline Levitt and all that. So, all right, I wanted to see what Fox News is saying. You know, you always got to watch the other side and see what they're saying. I don't hear them saying nothing. At least their shit's not coming up on my timeline. Hold on, let me be more direct with the algorithm. Hold on, y'all. You telling me they ain't saying shit? Okay, they did the press briefing. Okay, here's something. Oh no, that's local news. That's local. Come on, Fox News. Y'all not gonna be fair? Y'all not gonna report on this? Oh. Yeah. The local Fox stations have mentioned it, but not Fox News has mentioned it. Wow. Wow. Well. Yeah. Listen, Fox News, they on the phone with Trump right now, like, shit, Ninja, what you want us to say? Because shit, we don't know. How are we gonna spin this? Or Trump called Fox News and was like, y'all better not report on this shit. You better keep your mouth shut. Do not say shit about the emails. Let me tell you. Ain't that something, huh? All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get the hell up out of here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm pretty sure we'll have more development. So, yeah, I'll be back again. But I love y'all for watching. Thank you. We out. Deuces, everybody. Oh, and like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Y'all see it right there in the corner.